Have you ever felt like your body holds secrets that you haven't revealed yet? Discovered? Imagine for a moment that within each of your cells, there is an ancient mechanism, as powerful as it is silent, patiently waiting to be activated. Perfectly designed by the nature that, when wake up, begin to repair damage, eliminate toxins and regenerate tissues as if it were an internal medicine. It's not science fiction. It is not a miracle supplement or a pill newly patented. It is your biological heritage, a capacity innate, that the evolution has been refined over millions of years to keep us alive and healthy, even in the most adverse conditions. This mechanism has a name, autophagy, and although may sound technical or distant, it perhaps represents the most intimate and revolutionary discovery about our own body in the last few decades. The word comes from of the Greek auto, oneself, and phagein, eat, literally means eat oneself, but not in a destructive sense, but precisely the opposite. It is a cellular recycling process that eliminates damaged or aged components to generate new and healthy. The fascinating thing is that this system has existed inside you since the moment you were conceived. It has been working silently throughout your life, but the modern science is just beginning to decipher his true potential, and more importantly, how we can deliberately amplify it to live longer and with better health. The mystery of why that some people seem age more slowly, or why certain cultures enjoy longevity, extraordinary begins to reveal itself through this microscopic window. And it turns out, it is no coincidence that Japan, the country with the elderly life expectancy in the world, where more than 70,000 people have exceeded the 100 years, also where the science of autophagy has reached its maximum development. 5. Japanese scientists stand out among the pioneers world in the research of the longevity through autophagy. Their discoveries have not only generated a revolution in laboratories and universities, but they connect surprisingly with traditions Japanese millennials who, without knowing it, they have been activating precisely these mechanisms of cellular rejuvenation. What these researchers have confirmed is so simple as it is revolutionary. What you choose to eat every day, when you decide to do it, how you manage your feeding schedules. All of these everyday decisions can enhance or block your natural self-repair ability. You don't need sophisticated technology nor treatments expensive. The real anti-aging medicine. It has always been inside you, waiting for you to learn how to activate it. This discovery puts in question a good part of the modern industry health, built on the premise that we need external agents, drugs, supplements, treatments, to keep us healthy. The truth revealed by the science of autophagy is that path toward a long and vibrant life does not lie primarily in what we can add from outside, but in allowing our own internal systems function as they were designed. Japan not only offers us cutting-edge scientific advances in this field, but a wisdom practical, every day, about how live in harmony with our biological rhythms. In a society obsessed with quick fixes and packaged miracles, Japanese principles invite us to look into the address opposite, towards the conscious simplicity, towards more rhythms, natural food, towards a more intuitive relationship with our body. I invite you to embark in a fascinating journey through the Japanese secrets of the longevity. To be discovered as small decisions daily, they can activate this internal rejuvenation system. To understand why, in many cases, less is more, when we talk about nutrition and cellular health. And above all, to recover the control over your own aging process, transforming it from a slope inevitable toward the decay in a path of constant renewal and vitality sustained. The autophagy revolution not only promises to change how we age, but how we live every day. Because when you understand that every meal, every break in the nutrition, every nutritional choice is an opportunity to activate your internal medicine, everyday life becomes a personal laboratory where you are both the scientist and the beneficiary of every discovery. It's time to activate the switch of the youth that already exists within you, to awaken the regenerative potential that has been dormant while you followed patterns, foodstuffs that, without, if you didn't know, you could be accelerating your aging. Knowledge is power, and the power of autophagy is about to change your relationship forever, with your own body and with he past of the time. In the silent laboratory of the University of Tokyo, a man observed with fascination something that no one eye had been able to see so clearly before: how the cells of a simple yeast began to eat themselves, not by self-destruction, but as a supreme act of survival and renewal. It was 1988, and Dr. Yoshinori Osumi had just opened a window towards one of the more mechanisms fundamentals of life, although at that time I could not yet imagine the profound implications of my discovery. For decades, this process had remained in the shadows, occasionally mentioned in scientific literature, but considered a secondary phenomenon. Most researchers focused his attention in as cells manufacture new proteins, but few wondered that occurred with old or damaged proteins. It was like studying a city, noticing only in the construction of new buildings, completely ignoring waste management and recycling systems. Dr. Osumi, with a curiosity that transcended the scientific fashions of the moment, decided to look precisely where others did not look. What occurs with cellular components that no longer function correctly? How do you get rid of it? A body of this biological waste material. The answer he found would change forever our understanding of the health, the disease, and the aging. What Osumi documented with meticulous precision was a process that would later be known as autophagy, a sophisticated system through which cells identify damaged components, isolate in special membranes, and digest them with enzymes to recycle their basic elements. It's like a microscopic recycling plant inside every cell in our body, converting old and defective parts in raw materials for the cell renewal. This discovery, which would be worth it a Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016, revealed that autophagy is much more than a simple cleaning mechanism. It is a fundamental system for our survival, activated especially during periods of fasting or controlled cellular stress, when the body needs to be efficient with its resources. Osumi's genius was not limited to identifying the process, but to develop methods to observe and measure it. Where other scientists had failed in trying to see this phenomenon in complex cells, he simplified the problem studying yeasts, unicellular organisms with the same basic mechanisms as ours human cells themselves. This approach allowed to identify the genes responsible for autophagy, opening the way to understand how this process works in humans. What followed his discovery? It was a cascade of investigations that revealed the crucial role of autophagy in virtually every aspect of our health. In the prevention of the cancer, autophagy functions as a guardian, removing damaged cellular components that could trigger mutations carcinogenic. It acts as the first line of defense against one of our greatest fears, that our own cells turn against us. In the neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, has discovered that the accumulation of toxic proteins in the brain, characteristic of these conditions, occurs precisely when autophagy fails or is reduced. It is as if the neuronal cleaning system will stop working, allowing cellular garbage to accumulate to harmful levels. In metabolism and diabetes, autophagy regulates the insulin sensitivity and functioning of the cells that produce this essential hormone. Deficient autophagy contributes to the insulin resistance, while its activation adequate can prevent or even reverse aspects of type 2 diabetes. But maybe the most shocking discovery has been his relationship with the longevity. In multiple organisms, from yeast to worms, flies, and mice, the activation of autophagy has been consistently associated with a longer, healthier life. This process appears to be one of the ways fundamental through which they work almost all known interventions that extend life, from the caloric restriction up to certain compounds such as metformin or resveratrol. Dr. Osumi, with his characteristic Japanese humility, has always insisted in which your work not looking the immortality, but to understand the fundamental mechanisms of life. Autophagy is a basic and indispensable process for the cell survival He explained in his speech upon receiving the Nobel Prize winner, emphasizing how this mechanism has accompanied the evolution of living beings from their most primitive origins. Dr. Osumi's scientific philosophy exemplifies profoundly Japanese values: patience, meticulousness, respect for the fundamentals, and a holistic approach that does not artificially separate the biological processes, but rather seen as an interconnected system. Unlike more reductionist approaches, its vision integrates autophagy as part of a natural balance that we must understand and respect, not simply manipulate. His job has inspired thousands of studies around the world, connecting this cellular process with practically all of the major diseases and conditions associated with aging. What began as a curiosity about the cellular recycling in yeasts has become one of the most promising areas to understand how we age and how we could do it with elderly health and vitality. This discovery reminds us of something profoundly important. Our body possesses wisdom inherent, elegant, and sophisticated systems designed to keep us healthy. The key to a long life is not necessarily in drastic interventions or futuristic technologies, but in learning to work in harmony with these natural systems, creating the conditions for them to work optimally. Dr. Osumi's legacy transcends the scientific and invites us to a deeper reflection on our relationship with the nature and with our own body. It reminds us that sometimes the elderly wisdom consists not in added complexity, but in removing obstacles, allowing the process's natural flow as they were designed. The question that arises then is, how can we apply this knowledge in our daily lives? How we consciously activate this cell renewal mechanism that Dr. Osumi has revealed to the world? The answer, surprisingly, begins with something so simple, yet as powerful as the time between our meals. The sun is barely rising on the horizon of Okinawa while Dr. Takayuki Teruya observes with attention the blood samples in his laboratory. What you are seeing is not simply a change in biochemical markers. It is contemplating a profound metabolic transformation, an ancient survival mechanism that is activated when the human body experiences periods without food. He is watching how he fast triggers a cascade of processes rejuvenators, including autophagy. For centuries, the fasting practices have been part of religious and cultural traditions all over the world. In Japan, this practice is not a passing fad, neither a discovery recent. It is part of the cultural fabric of the nation. What was once done for spiritual or practical reasons is now revealed to be one of the most powerful interventions to activate our internal longevity mechanisms. Dr. Teruya, principal investigator at the Center for Biology of the Development in the Riken Life Sciences Institute, has dedicated decades to understanding as human metabolism changes during periods of fasting. Their findings have scientifically confirmed what the inhabitants of certain regions of Japan, particularly Okinawa, home to some of the longest-lived populations on the planet, have practiced intuitively. Giving our digestive system regular periods of rest is not only not harmful, but activates deep mechanisms of protection and cellular renewal. The concept is misleading simple, fasting between 12 and 16 hours, typically including sleep period nocturnal, so that the body happens from a state of digestion and storage to a state of cleansing and repair. It is not about extreme deprivation or painful sacrifice. It is simply respect the circadian rhythms that have governed our biology for millennia. In the traditional Japanese practice, the last meal of the day, it is usually early, around 6 or 7 in the evening, and the breakfast is taken after the body has had enough time to complete their cellular cleansing cycles, usually not before 7 or the 8 of the tomorrow. This rhythm, far from being arbitrary, coincides precisely with the patterns that Dr. Teruya has identified as optimal for activating the metabolic benefits of intermittent fasting. It revolutionary of the studies Dr. Teruya's is that they have been able to quantify exactly that occurs in our metabolism during these periods of fasting. His team has documented how after approximately 12 hours without caloric intake, the body begins to experience a profound metabolic change. The levels of certain metabolites, molecules produced during metabolism, increase significantly. Among them, highlights include isoleucine and cysteine, amino acids that help maintain the muscle mass even during the fasting; pyruvate, a compound that enhances energy metabolism and improves the ability of cells to generate energy efficiently; glyceroneogenesis, a process that helps recycle fats and maintain stable sugar levels in blood without need to consume food. But maybe the most significant finding was the increase in compounds with powerful antioxidant properties, such as butyryl carnitine, which protects cells from oxidative stress, one of the main factors of the aging at the molecular level. These endogenous antioxidants, produced by the own body, are considerably more potent and selective than any antioxidant we can consume in supplement form. What we have discovered, he explained Dr. Taruya in one of his lectures, is that during the fasting the human body doesn't just survive, it reinvents itself. It moves from a state of cell growth and reproduction to a state of maintenance and repair, prioritizing quality over the quantity. It is not simply a period of deprivation. It is a period of active metabolic transformation. This transformation has profound implications for our comprehension of the aging and chronic diseases. Intermittent fasting, practiced sensibly and adapted to the needs individual, increases the energy efficiency of our cells, reduces the oxidative stress and chronic and active inflammation regulatory pathways that protect against cellular deterioration. In practical terms, this translates to a lower risk of heart disease, diabetes, cognitive decline, cancer, and other conditions associated with aging. But beyond the disease prevention, who regularly practice the intermittent fasting reported elderly mental clarity, more stable energy throughout the day, better digestion, and an overall sense of well-being that conventional weight control methods rarely provide. The fascinating thing about Dr. Taruya's approach is that he connects this ancient Japanese practice with the cutting-edge science on autophagy. During fasting, particularly after 12-14 hours without caloric intake, insulin levels drop significantly, which acts as a signal to initiate autophagy. Cells, sensing this temporary shortage, begin recycling damaged components, or redundant, preserving the essential and eliminating what is no longer useful. It's as if the body, before the absence momentary external nutrients, decided do an inventory of its internal resources, preserving what is valuable and recycling what is damaged. This process of cellular deep cleaning is precisely what Dr. Osumi identified in his research on autophagy, and what Dr. Taruya has shown to be powerfully activated during the intermittent fasting. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity and accessibility. Unlike treatments expensive or complex medical protocols, the intermittent fasting is a practice that anyone can implement without cost does not require special equipment, expensive supplements, or constant supervision. It is, in essence, a return to patterns more natural foods, more aligned with our ancestral biological rhythms. Dr. Taruya often emphasizes that this practice should not be seen as a diet in the conventional sense, oriented mainly to the weight loss, but as a comprehensive strategy to optimize the metabolic and cellular health. The change in the body composition is just the effect secondary, he says. It truly significant is the transformation that occurs at the cellular and molecular level, invisible to the naked eye but profoundly impactful in our aging trajectory. This holistic vision reflects the traditional Japanese approach to the health, where isolated solutions to specific problems are not sought, but rather integrated practices that benefit the body as a whole. Intermittent fasting, from this perspective, is not simply a tool to fix something that is wrong, but a practice to cultivate and maintain an optimal state of operation. The research Dr. Taruya's Tuhai helped to demystify some concerns common about the fasting. Contrary to the popular belief that we need to eat constantly to maintain active metabolism, its studies demonstrate that the regular periods of fasting in reality improve the metabolic flexibility, the ability of the body to efficiently switch between different energy sources, resulting in a healthier metabolism in the long term. Likewise, it is documented how far from causing muscle loss. Intermittent fasting can preserve and even improve the muscle mass when practicing correctly, especially when combined with adequate physical activity. It occurs because the increase in hormone growth and others anabolic factors during the fast creates a biochemical environment favorable to the muscle maintenance. What it does so valuable. The contribution Dr. Teruya's is that he has had a bridge between the traditional Japanese wisdom and the modern science, validating with data, rigorous what generations of Japanese have practiced intuitively. In an obsessed world with complex and technological solutions for the aging, your work reminds us that some of the most powerful interventions are also the simplest, rooted in respect for natural rhythms of the body. Fasting emerges like this not as a fad, not only temporary, but as a fundamental practice to activate our internal longevity mechanisms, particularly autophagy. It's a free, accessible, and scientifically validated tool that anyone can incorporate into their life to improve his long-term health. The invitation that he makes us, Dr. Teruya, through his research is clear. Recover the control over our patterns. Food, respect the natural cycles of nutrition and renewal, and allow our body active periodically its inherent rejuvenation mechanisms. In this conscious simplicity may lie one of the most powerful keys to a long, healthy, and fulfilling life. The small on the islands of Okinawa, home to some of the longest-lived people on the planet, there is a mantra that is passed down from generation to generation. In generation dies, whispered by grandmothers to their grandchildren before every meal, Hara Hachi Bu. This expression, which could translate as eat until you are 80% full, contains an ancestral wisdom that modern science is just beginning to understand in all its depth. Not just about eating less. It's a whole philosophy about our relationship with the feeding. It is to recognize the subtle space between the sufficient nutrition and the excess. That delicate balance where the body receives what you need without the additional burden. That this entails processed calories unnecessary. It is, in essence, a practice of conscious moderation that transforms each meal into an opportunity to honor natural rhythms of the body. Okinawans not only live longer than the world average, with one of the older people concentrations of centenarians, but they maintain an extraordinary quality of life into old age advanced. And this simple, the practice of stopping before feeling completely full, seems to be one of its fundamental secrets. Science now confirms that this traditional wisdom is active directly the mechanisms of autophagy. When we consume only the necessary, to maintaining a slight caloric deficit without reach the deprivation, we create the ideal metabolic environment for our cells to begin their cleansing and renewal processes. The Hara Hachi Bu is not just a cultural practice. It is a precise biological intervention that optimizes our cellular machinery. Few have embodied these beginning with as much consistency and success as the legendary Dr. Shigeki Hinohara, one of the Japan's most revered physicians, who exercising actively his profession until the 105 years old. His life was not only extraordinarily long, but brimming with vitality, lucidity, and purpose until his last days. At 104 years, he continued giving lectures, writing books, and caring for patients, challenging all our conceptions of what it means to grow old. Dr. Hinohara attributed much of his longevity and vitality to their eating habits. Remarkably, similar to those Okinawa principles. I take a breakfast very light fruit, a glass of milk, and a tablespoon of olive oil, he explained. Lunch is also minimal, generally milk and cookies, or nothing when I'm too busy. Dinner is vegetables, some fish, and a little rice. Twice a week I allow myself 100 grams of lean meat. This approach, which many Western nutritionists would consider insufficient, it served perfectly suited Dr. Hinohara to maintain a schedule that would exhaust people decades younger. He worked more than 18 hours some days, remained physically active, and retained an extraordinarily sharp mind that generated ideas innovative until the end of their lives. What both he will do, Hachibu, from Okinawa as the practices, by Dr. Hinohara demonstrate, is that the moderation in the feeding does not lead to weakness or the deprivation, like many they fear. For the contrary, creates a physical and mental state of lightness, clarity, and energy sustained, that is, impossible to achieve when we constantly overload our digestive system. From the perspective of autophagy, we now understand why this practice is so powerful. When we eat until we are completely satisfied, especially with high-calorie foods, we cause an elevation-sustained insulin and growth factor, like growth factor insulin, IGF-1, hormones that signal to our cells that resources are abundant and should be focused in growth and the reproduction. This signal inhibits indeed autophagy, since the body does not perceive the need to recycle or conserve resources.